Hello and welcome to another episode of the CompileSwift podcast. I'm your host, Peter Whittam. In this podcast, we talk about everything related to Apple platforms and Apple development, including macOS, iOS, iPadOS, watchOS, tvOS, and any other OS they've invented this week. So with that, let's get on with the show. Hey, what's up everybody? It's another episode of the CompileSwift.com podcast. In this episode, I am going to talk a little bit about Swift Package Manager. I've been playing around with that over the past week. In fact, I just got a video out and it's going up to YouTube as I record this, so I'll also put a link for that in the show notes. I will also talk a little bit about SwiftUI and some of the frustration I've been having with it. First up, let's talk about Swift Package Manager. I started using it this week and, I had some code that I wanted to really use across multiple personal projects. And I thought, what a perfect opportunity to go ahead and create my first Swift package. Yeah, I know it's ridiculous that it's taken this long, but, it's one of those where you really need a reason to do it. And I finally found that reason. So I was working through and I thought to myself as I'm doing this, it's not immediately obvious how this works, and anytime something like that happens, I think to myself, it's time to create a video for other folks in the Swift community. So that's exactly what I did, and I just wrapped recording it, editing it, and like I say, it's now uploading to YouTube, and the link will be in the show notes. So creating the Swift package itself in Xcode 12 was very straightforward. You can just go File, New, and Swift Package. But there are a couple of gotchas that I wanted to talk about, and they are covered in the video. But basically, you got to watch out that you publicly expose the things you want to be able to access and share with other folks. And, part of that is it's kind of surprising in a way that the struct that's created by default in Xcode in the template when you build it doesn't have an init function. And so I went ahead and put one of those in there, and it solved a lot of my problems. This was, I was having some issues using the package in my application. Now, as far as bringing the Swift package across into an app, that's very straightforward and wonderfully easy, thanks to the integration within GitHub. I just pushed my package up to my own GitHub account. I got the URL, or of course you can search when you're in Xcode and add it there. But I just put the URL in, gave it a branch name, said go get the main branch, and imported it into my code. And away it went. Super easy. So very impressed with that. And I think I'm going to be spending a lot more time with Swift Package Manager in the future. I have a lot of code, I think we all do, right? Those little utility functions or whatever it may be, classes, extensions that you build for yourself, and, you then use them across multiple projects, or maybe you share them with the team. And it's looking like Swift Package Manager is very much the easy way and simple way to do that. So I'm going to spend a lot more time with that. Probably talk about that a bit more in the future as well. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, I'll talk about a little bit about my adventures with SwiftUI this week.
Time for a break.
When I was looking to get started creating my own podcast, I looked at lots of different services, and I found the one that worked best for me was Anchor.fm. And the reason being is they do everything for you. All you need to do is go to the app stores and download the mobile app, or you can go to their website at anchor.fm, that's ANCHOR.fm, and you can get it set up there. Basically, you just answer a few questions, and within minutes you've got your own podcast stream set up, ready to go. They also handle lots of monetization options for you and take care of all of those details to get sponsorship for your podcast, and basically give you everything you need in one tool, either on the website or the mobile device to get started. So I would recommend going to anchor.fm today to get started creating your own podcast and sharing with the world.
Break time over.
Okay, so I've been using SwiftUI more and more, and funny enough, it's starting to get a little infuriating in some ways because, yes, I know it's still very early days for SwiftUI, but we really do need to start using it, and I always promote using it as well. But sometimes there's just things that just annoy you, and it's like, this shouldn't be this hard, right? Or shouldn't be that tough to work out. Now, at first, I think to myself, well, I just don't understand it or the way it works, and then have to go back and learn again. And sometimes, though, you go through them and it's like, no, I think I'm getting this right, and it's just not working properly. So what am I talking about here as an example? Well, right in line with my previous comments about in the first part about Swift Package Manager, I wrote a package with some extensions in for some dates, right? Some data strings and various little things that I use. So I was trying to bring those into my SwiftUI application, a little idea that I was spinning together for a personal app. And it just got very frustrating to figure out, not so much the SwiftUI interface part, but the proper way, or even a way that works, to bring in some of the business logic into a SwiftUI application. And it all, as I'm doing it, it feels messy. And you get that code smell that says, I don't think I'm doing this right, even if it's working. And I'm just finding a lot of things like that. So in the end, this little personal project, I just went back and said, screw it. And I went back and started again and built a storyboard version of the app and just brought the libraries in, started using them. The business logic worked just fine and the problem was solved and the app was done. So it's very interesting that SwiftUI is, yes, it requires a different mindset, but it also requires, in a way, to sort of do some of the things so differently to the way that you're used to doing them, that in the end I can understand why some people turn around and say, forget it, I'm just not going to use SwiftUI yet. So I think I need to spend more time there, a lot more time, understanding how I get my business logic and code. Not so much models. Models in SwiftUI seem to be very straightforward and better than they were in, say, storyboard apps. But this whole thing with the business layer is very frustrating because of the way that it renders out screens. For example, part of my application was I had a timer, right? And, timers in SwiftUI, it's not that bad. But the idea was that I wanted to be able to type in a bunch of numbers, say 1 minute, hit a button, and have it count down, just like a countdown timer, right? Sounds very simple. Yet the business logic to have it do that and then update the screen. And because it updates the screen, you've got to make sure things like the count are in the state and things like that. And it gets to be very messy right now, at least for a SwiftUI user of my level. But I'm not going to give up on it. I'm going to keep doing it. It's a personal project, so there's no pressure of timeline. And that's always a big plus for learning new things. But it does make you stop and wonder, it's like, the projects that I work on for other people, the real money makers and that, and day job or whatever it may be, is SwiftUI the way to go yet? I'm not sure. Not sure that I would want to, suddenly throw that on a team and say, hey, rewrite your business logic to work with this. I don't know. I gotta work it out some more. Anyway, that's it for this week. I just wanted to touch on a couple of subjects. It's very kind of quiet at the moment in the Swift world. Obviously the ramp up is going to start very soon, and all the rumors about what may or may not be at WWDC this year, or how WWDC is going to play out. But that's going to get to ramp up very quickly and be very exciting. On another note, just quickly, I continue to see people that I know and respect posting about their performance testing with the Apple chips. And, the M1 chip, and oh my goodness, they're starting to make me very jealous indeed. And I'm fighting hard the resistance to say goodbye to my MacBook Pro 16-inch with the i9. But every time those fans spin up, you start to think about those M1s and you think, that would certainly be a quieter world. And I certainly wouldn't have to edit out the fan noise on things like podcast and video recordings. Anyway, that's it. Reach out to me at CompileSwift on Twitter or CompileSwift.com. Love to hear from you. Love to get comments. If you're interested in, making an appearance, or there's something you want to talk about on CompileSwift, or something you'd like me to talk about or take a look at, be it a project or an application or whatever it may be, you can now go to CompileSwift.com, and there'll be a link there to be, a form that you can fill in to appear on this podcast. And with that, I will speak to you next time. Take care.